I have no respect for these people who are playing in these fantastical playgrounds while real people suffer. And the way that, and for him, it's a business proposition. Because as long as he can stay theoretical and never has to face the real world implications he's talking about, that's why, like, forget about this video anymore. Play the video of him responding to the guy who just shot up, 8 people in Texas, who apparently was a fan of his. Now, do I think Tim is to blame for this? No, I don't think Tim is to blame for this. Do I think the ideology that he promotes, the ideology and the people that he promotes on his platform, do I think that creates a worldview that encourages people like this? Probably the guy had some form of mental illness, maybe, or maybe he didn't. But the point is, again, this country assassinates American citizens, al-Awlaki, who put out videos encouraging the type of hate that drives people to these type of attacks. Maybe, maybe al-Awlaki, maybe he said you should go and attack people, and Tim doesn't. He just says it's evil. These things are evil.
When will somebody do something?
When will somebody do something? Something's got to be done, or we're going to be in a civil war. Well, if I tell you we're going to be in a civil war, what's your response going to be? Oh, I'm just going to sit here and let them shoot at me? Or if you're a person on the edge, you're a person who's on the margins of society. I'm not talking about in terms of political power, but like in terms of emotional state. What are you going to do? And yet he doesn't want to take any responsibility for this. But here, put up, how does Tim respond to this? Do we know? Or what is this?
This is him responding to the shooting.
Okay, good.
We have this from NBC News. What we know about the slain Texas Mall massacre suspect, Mauricio Garcia. Garcia, who had a tactical vest, was armed with a rifle and a handgun. A senior law enforcement official said. Authorities said he was a suspected...
Oh, I'm sorry. What's that behind Tim's show? Oh, he's just got a couple of weapons there. All right, go ahead. Sorry, just looking.
Neo-Nazi sympathizer. Now, this story it's a tragedy. It's unfortunate. And we have, unfortunately, too many of these stories that end up happening in the media. I'm sorry, that end up happening and then end up hitting the media. So, I mean, the first thing I just want to say...
I'm sorry, can I get some clarification on that? The problem is we have too many of these stories in the media? No, I mean, too many of these stories that happen that end up hitting the media. Like, I'm sorry, the media should not be covering...
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the problem is that they're highlighting
We should only be covering stories when 9 people get killed. Go ahead.
Any of the politics from either side is, we don't want these things to happen. We want these things to stop. We need to figure out what the issue is in our society, in our culture. I genuinely believe it's disassociation. It is a dejected society where individuals don't know or care about each other, and they seek validation or they seek to push some extremist ideology. And then this whole thing creates a recipe for disaster. And I'll put it simply, I think it's multiculturalism. And not the idea that people of all different types are holding hands on the rainbow. It's that you have different communities stacked on top of each other and next to each other with wildly different views, and they don't like each other. And then people who are crazy will do crazy things. But what ends up happening today...
So wait a second, this guy is responding to a neo-Nazi shooting up people in a mall by saying that the reason why we have this type of violence in society is that we have too many different types of people living near each other.
Yeah, it makes sense why the shooter was a fan of his.
I mean, that is unbelievable. I'm going to defend my being mentioned in the context of this by basically saying I agree with the shooter. Not his tactics, of course.
But of course it's going to drive someone because of all that multiculturalism, it's enough to drive a man insane.
I mean, Ayaan Hirsi Ali said this about the Anders Breivik, like basically like the what do they used to call it, the suicide of Europe because they're letting in so many Muslims. He had no choice. Like what are you going to? Something's going to happen.
Yep.
Look what you made us do.
revealed Texas gunmen staked out Massacre Mall to monitor peak times 3 weeks before killing 8, and posted details on Russian social media alongside photos of Nazis, guns, and ammunition. You see, here's where we get into the Psyop. No one knows if this Russian social media profile is it actually belongs to this guy. A Bellingcat researcher named Eric Toller just said, I found this profile that looks like it's his. In fact, I'm pretty sure he even said, I didn't verify it, I don't know. Now, the photos that are coming out, I don't want to show many of them considering the sensitive
I'm sorry,
nature
but by
of these.
this point, this has been verified. This has been verified by multiple news outlets. You can look up the Southern Poverty Law Center's research into this shooter, but there are a variety of different media things that the shooter consumed. Libs of TikTok, Tim Pool, Nick Fuentes, the Daily Stormer. He had Nazi tattoos. This is verified. So I doubt Tim will issue any kind of correction. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But it's not just Bellingcat now. It's a bunch of different outlets.
Well, let's just for a moment, though. Even worse that, like, okay, so, listen, we should always be somewhat like, we should have our reaction to information that comes out in these situations should always be measured, and it is much better to slow walk things.
Provisional,
because so much misinformation comes out in the wake of these things all the time. As such, though, to assess something as a psyop, you might want to take a couple of breaths, too, before you say something is a psyop.
Yeah.
But on top of which, I still think the most damning thing is that he's going on and saying that the reason why we get neo-Nazi killers is because, well, even if you didn't know that this guy was a neo-Nazi, the reason why we have people being shot up is because we have too much multiculturalism.
Right.
How is that different from what the guy purportedly was doing this for?
Right.
Like, how is that different from the fundamental basis of the ideology of a Nazi?
It's Tim Pool Fensitter, though, because he thinks that he would go back and say, I have plausible deniability, because I'm not advocating for the kind of agita and anger and fury that comes from multiculturalism. I'm just observing it.
Just explaining it, yeah.
Even though that's...
But it gives away the game that he has to go all the way and call it a psyop, because the responsible thing to do would say is, look, things could be, coming out that could prove this stuff wrong, but just to the sense that, like, let's say this stuff is true, let's address it. Well, that's really difficult, because if addressing it is to say, like, oh, this guy posted multiple screenshots of my interview with Elijah Schaffer, and so it's like you can't go down that road, so you instead just say it's a psyop.
Continue.
That are coming out, I don't want to show many of them considering the sensitive nature of these things. They don't show his face. And Ian Miles Chong actually found that most of these photos are from 5 years ago on a random subreddit that were making fun of these people.
I don't know
Ian Miles Chong, who is zero credibility as a researcher or critic of anything.
No.
He's
Bullprog says Tim Pool regularly cites the Daily Mail. I mean, just in general, the point is like his...
he's saying it's a psyop.
Psyop.
Right,
but,
he does. He's a very serious person thinking about deontological versus utilitarian thought as he cites a tabloid for half of his fucking...
I mean...
that's from the New York Times.
How much money does Tim Pool need to make before he feels like maybe I shouldn't be adding to this?
Yeah. New York Times now said the profile found on social media site OK.ru matches the gunman's birthday and refers to a motel where he was staying before the shooting. The profile also includes language praising Hitler, which references to neo-Nazi website, the Daily Stormer.
That tracks with the Nazi tattoos.
Yeah. The Nazi tattoos could have been a giveaway.
Maybe
I wonder why Tim didn't show any of the pictures that the guy posted.
Because it's sensitive.
Oh, because it's pictures of him with that guy too racist for the Blaze.
Well, actually, I want to correct that. Elijah Schaffer I thought it was about the racism and like taking shots at Mormon. There was apparently a sexual assault accusation.
All right, fair enough. So. Yeah, sorry about that.
We wouldn't want
to we got the wrong
character as a racist.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just
Sorry, he's not a racist. He's
predator.
Just accused of sexual assault.
Yeah. Well.
Also racist.
Let's go to the phones.
I don't know how these people sleep at night.
They're not sleeping well, apparently, since Sam's been on Patrick.
Oh!